Glenwood Cemetery is Flint's oldest graveyard, and it's a place of mysteries.
Well, it's fascinating. I love mysteries. Everybody does. You know, it's fascinating to kind of get the rest of the story. It's uncovering things. You know, the stories that from our past that should not have been forgotten.
But some things are forgotten. And one of Glenwood's mysteries is an area where there were no headstones at all, an empty patch of grass beneath some towering oaks. It wasn't a place Lemlin had ever given any thought to until a woman named Mary Klein walked into his office.
I had noticed Mary out in the cemetery a number of times, and she'd come in the office asking about specific people. Basically, she walked me through everything and showed me that that there weren't the headstones for them, and that they were in fact orphans from Michigan School for the Deaf.
Mary Klein is an alumnus of the nearby Michigan School for the Deaf, and she was working on a project finding all the people related to her school buried at Glenwood. She'd found dozens of teachers, administrators, and benefactors, but there was one group she couldn't find. It was a group of students, orphans she called them, children who had come to the school and died there, and were buried in this nearby cemetery.
I would realize that some of the information was not quite right, that the names that we had written down and the names that were on the stones were actually related. They were different families. So the names that I was researching and the names of the stones where they told me that they weren't matching up. And I was completely shocked because I was shocked to find that there were no headstones, and it was heart-wrenching. I thought there should be something. There should be some indication.
Records showed there were 11 students buried there, but beyond their names and when they went to school, there wasn't much information. That was until a woman named Kay Stewart called the cemetery out of the blue, searching for her great-aunt and uncle, two deaf twins who had died as children at Michigan School for the Deaf.
They were such beautiful little children, two blondes. Grace, I have a picture of them. Grace had high button shoes and a beautiful white dress, and Rice Custer had tie-up shoes and a beautiful white sailor outfit.
Sometime in the 1980s, I was reading a newspaper article about Glenwood Cemetery, and I found it very fascinating. And so I was reading a history book about the Michigan School for the Deaf, and it talked about many of the people from the school were buried in that cemetery. So I decided to go on over, take a look. It wasn't until years later that Mary was interested as well, and so we joined forces.
During her research, Klein developed a closeness with the orphans, and now can begin the work of making sure they're not forgotten.
I mean, honestly, I was so happy to just know the names, so we know who they are. They may have been orphans. I just hope that wherever they are, maybe they're down there looking up, that they would be relieved that people are interested and are trying to find them, and that they're not forgotten, that they will be remembered.
On the anniversary of their deaths in 2012, Kay Stewart traveled back to Glenwood Cemetery and placed a headstone in Rice and Grace's honor.
It just gave me a feeling that they can rest at ease now, and that my grandmother and my grandfather know that they have been looked after.